I'm Dwight Drummond. Tonight, the provincial election is now officially underway. Expect to be seeing and hearing a lot more from these party leaders over the next month.
We have the team, we have the vision, and we have the plan.
There are people in this province who need hope, and we're here to say you can have hope.
We are a party that has new leadership and a brand new Liberal team with extraordinarily compelling ideas.
The old parties are just not getting the job done.
The first day saw the four main parties focusing on the GTA, a region experts say will play a key role in determining which party wins. Plus,
I did everything that I could, and it's heartbreaking. I ask my dad for forgiveness every day.
A Toronto woman is calling for more compassionate hospital policies after her being unvaccinated prevented her from visiting her dying father. And 30 years since the Yonge Street uprising, why some say more needs to be done to address the issues that led to the protests. Highways, healthcare, schools, and the economy all front and center today as the provincial election campaign officially got underway. All four major party leaders campaigning here in the GTA, where experts say this election will be decided. Lorenda Rudderkop joins us live from Doug Ford's launch party out in Etobicoke. And Lorenda, it's been a busy day, and it's not done yet for these four party leaders.
That's right, Dwight. And Doug Ford is holding his launch party here in the heart of Ford Nation. This is his home turf. As you can see, lots of people lined up. They're just opening the doors right now. Doug Ford is set to arrive in about an hour, and then he'll speak. He's known for these big rallies, and this is part of the push that all parties are making to win over the GTA.
There he is.
Doug Ford stepped off his campaign bus this morning and right into a divisive issue. Building Highway 413, a new highway that would run through part of the Greenbelt.
What it does is create thousands of jobs. There's going to be over 8,000 jobs created building these highways. That's just this highway, not to mention the Highway 3 and Highway 7 and 401.
Can I shake hands with you?
I hope you're
Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca went to a coffee shop in Oakville with an idea that directly takes on the PC's plan.
We will kill Highway 413 once and for all and invest $10 billion in publicly funded schools. I think that helps to underscore the stark choice that Ontarians have.
Andrea Horvath started the NDP campaign outside the Ontario legislature, then headed to another part of the GTA, Mississauga. She presents herself as the best option to beat Doug Ford, but also raises questions about the Liberals and Stephen Del Duca.
No matter what the Liberals say now, they had 15 years to address our crumbling schools, and they didn't. They left this province with $15.9 billion of school repair backlogs.
Green Party leader Mike Schreiner headed to his launch in an electric car.
Good to see you.
He's hoping to win his party more seats than just his this time.
The bottom line is the old parties are just not getting the job done.
This political scientist says it's no surprise the focus for all parties so far is Toronto and the 905.
Those are the seats that are most likely to move. There's a lot of seats in rural Ontario that, you can check off for the Conservatives before things start. But ultimately, around the GTA, it's where governments are made and lost.
For many people we talk to, the main issue is the cost of living. The other strongest opinions, Doug Ford.
I'm very, very happy with what's being done at this point in time.
Doug Ford's hands have been tied for the last 2.5 years because of the pandemic, but as soon as he gets back in power again, I think he's going to do some things that we're not going to like.
I'm surprised, let's just say, that he did as good as he did.
He's not at the top of my list, let's put it that way.
I'm 34 years old and I've been watching Doug Ford, and it's like watching an ex-boyfriend say a lot of things and nothing's done.
And Dwight, here tonight among this crowd, we certainly expect that Doug Ford will receive a lot of support. As I said, he is expected to speak in around an hour. Then tomorrow he heads to another part of the GTA, going to Pickering. I'll send it back to you.
And we're off. Thank you, Lorenda. A Toronto woman is speaking out tonight after she was barred from visiting her dying father in hospital because she is unvaccinated. She's asking that visitation policies be more compassionate. Lisa Shing shares her story.
It was the biggest heartbreak. I've always been with my dad.
Salome Lopez and her mother had been taking care of her dad for the last 25 years. But when he was admitted to St. Joseph's at the end of December, she wasn't allowed in because she isn't vaccinated against COVID. She tried every day after that, providing negative test results. Still no luck. The hospital's patient relations department gave her a video visit in response to her complaints.
It's not good enough. You need that interaction because you don't know if that patient had interaction with their loved one, they actually would get the will to live.
Her father died several days later. Most hospitals in the province don't allow unvaccinated visitors except in certain circumstances. At the time, St. Joseph's had an exemption for those who had family who were within 2 or 3 days of dying. Lopez says she got a call 10 minutes before her father died.
I would never think I would live in a country like this. Based on a vaccination status, my dad would die alone. I'm going to be hunted for life. Always.
Lopez's story is familiar to the Patient Ombudsman's Office. Of the complaints it has received about hospital visitation, many have been about vaccination status.
We want to protect our patients. And
the head of geriatrics for University Health Network and Sinai Health thinks there should be some exemptions, but
the reason why we do have these requirements in place is because they're there to not only support those individual patients, but everybody living and receiving care in our hospitals right now.
They're reacting as if vaccines are a firewall against transmission, and they are not. They may be of some help, but they're not a firewall.
But this bioethicist says hospital policies have not evolved along with the changes within the pandemic.
It's got long-term psychological consequences and benefits. And to curtail that, first of all, it's cruel. And secondly, it can also be very, very destructive.
St. Joseph's currently allows unvaccinated visitors to see patients who have up to 2 weeks left to live and says its policies are reviewed regularly and are aligned with other Toronto hospitals. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Game 2 tonight for our Maple Leafs as they continue their first-round playoff series against Tampa Bay. The Leafs dominated Game 1, blanking the Lightning 5-0. Greg Ross joins us live from Scotiabank Arena. And Greg, the Leafs are expecting to see a much stronger Tampa team tonight.
That's right, Dwight, and it's important that we don't forget that this is the two-time defending champion Tampa Bay Lightning that the Leafs are going to have to face in this game. And if you look back at their track record in their last 2 playoff runs, they are an incredible team when it comes to bouncing back after a loss, particularly their goaltender, Andrei Vasilevsky, who is a perfect 14-0 after a loss in the playoffs. He's got 5 shutouts in that span. That's 1 shutout for every goal that he let in Game 1. So the Leafs know that this series is far from being in the bag, and they expect to have their work cut out for them tonight.
You got to understand that it's one game. You know, we haven't really won much yet.
Leafs defenseman Jake Muzzin knows all too well that there's still a long road ahead for the Leafs. Muzzin, who won a cup with the Kings, says it's way too early to celebrate.
You look at things you need to improve on, and then you get ready to go again.
Leafs coach Sheldon Keefe says he expects a much more difficult challenge in Game 2.
We obviously did a lot of good things in the hockey game that we can build upon, but at the same time, that's not the Tampa team that we prepared for. So we're expecting to see that team here tonight.
And that is why Keefe says his team will need more of this from the crowd at Scotiabank Arena.
I'm hopeful and expecting that it's going to be more of the same because it made a difference for sure. I mean, you walk out to the bench and the seats are all full for the anthem. Everybody's there and ready to go.
The city has been buzzing since the Leafs' Game 1 victory, something that hasn't gone unnoticed by the Lightning.
Well, it's hard to ignore because it's on every TV station.
Lightning coach John Cooper has asked his players to do their best to avoid it.
Yes, you love the fact that the city's embracing it because it's good for our sport. But it's, like I tell our guys, you want to get on social media and you want to enjoy all this stuff, do it at the parade. Just don't do it beforehand.
Definitely hard to ignore in this city. Now, the Leafs may get a boost in this game tonight from the return of forward Michael Bunting, who's back in the lineup for Game 2 tonight after missing Game 1 with a knee injury. And we also learned today that William Nylander played in Game 1 despite the fact that he had food poisoning. He said he got it on Monday at lunch. He played anyways despite the fact that he was throwing up all day. He says he feels a lot better heading into Game 2 tonight, Dwight.
Yeah, we've all had some of that bad sushi at one point. Thank you, Greg. So, Colin, I was whining for sunshine, and we got it. But before we get to that, how does a team from a city that doesn't even get snow win the last 2 cups?
Hey.
We have to take this series.
Preaching to the choir here, yeah. And not just the Stanley Cup, right? Like embarrassment of riches with all the championships there. So this one needs to be ours. We're working on that. Looking at our current temperatures right now, pretty comfortable there, getting that sunshine coming in. And really the wind's a factor because you look at Oshawa at 18. Otherwise, we do have some teens showing up in here. So kind of that lake effect in there. And that northerly breeze a little bit stronger through Markham right now into the city as well. It felt a tiny bit cool, but really it's just so nice to break out of that cloud deck this morning and to get that sunshine coming back in here at us and get the temperature at least closer to seasonal for that daytime high. Look at that clearing. It shows up pretty dramatically, right? You can see how those clouds are receding to the south. We're getting into this ridge of high pressure. That does mean we have clear skies overnight tonight, so some cooler temperatures. For the city, it's a low around 5, but for Markham, Georgina, areas like this, you're going to be just a little bit above freezing, a low of about 2 degrees. And so that's something to watch out for tomorrow morning, is it's going to take some time to see things warming up. But warming up we will, because we've got sunshine again tomorrow, some high thin cloud, fair weather stuff will be building into the afternoon hours. There is going to be a system to the south of us. Is that going to have an impact on us after tomorrow? I'm going to answer that question when I come back. But in the meantime, just to look at your numbers for tonight with that 5 for the overnight low. And look at this. How about that, Dwight? Tomorrow, 16 and more of your sunshine there.
About time. Thank you, Colette. Proceedings resumed today in the trial of Canadian recording artist Jacob Hogard. Allegations dating back several years have the front man of the rock band Headley facing charges of sexual interference and sexual assault causing bodily harm. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson has more.
It's been 4 long years since singer Jacob Hogard was charged with sexual assault, and now we finally have some news about his trial, which began on Monday in Toronto. The jurors for the trial have been chosen, and we now know that they will consist of 10 men and 4 women. 2 of those jurors will be randomly pulled from final deliberations. Jacob Hogard pleaded not guilty to all the charges against him. These charges are connected to the incidents that allegedly took place in 2016, one involving a woman who was an adult at the time and one involving a minor.
Jacob, are you excited to have your day in court today?
In 2019, during a preliminary hearing, Jacob Hogard pleaded not guilty and also requested a trial by jury rather than by a judge. And this is why it took this long for this trial to get started, because juried trials were postponed and put on hold during the COVID-19 pandemic. We got a chance to speak to Ingrid Grant. She is a criminal lawyer, and she said that having a trial by a jury rather than by a judge can actually have an effect. Here's what she had to say about that.
The benefit of a jury trial, a jury doesn't give you reasons. They just give you a verdict. And with a jury, the Crown doesn't have to just convince one person beyond a reasonable doubt. They have to convince 12 people.
So what can we expect in the days to come? The judge delivered her opening remarks today. Tomorrow, the Crown prosecutors will be delivering their opening remarks, as well as Jacob Hogard's attorneys. They will be speaking as well. And then we should be hearing from the first of the accusers tomorrow and Friday. Tomorrow, there will also be an expert witness. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
The controversy around an upcoming U.S. Supreme Court decision on abortion deepened today. A leaked draft document outlined reasons to strike down the ruling that guaranteed the legal right to abortion. The court's Chief Justice emphasized yesterday it was a draft and not the final decision. And for a second day, the U.S. President spoke out. Matt Nagabe-Selassie has more.
It's a smaller group outside the Supreme Court today, mostly made up of abortion rights activists. Now, there have been demonstrations right across the country defending Roe v. Wade. There have also been anti-abortion activists showing up as well.
For every abortion, for every choice, that's ending a human life. I mean, that's undeniable. The reality is that abortion kills a child, a human being.
This is ridiculous. I think we've gone 10 steps forward and now we're going 50 steps back. This is the catalyst for other things to happen if we don't stand up and fight back right now. There'd be backdoor abortions and women were dying because, you know, the coat hangers, you see signs here with coat hangers, that's what used to happen.
President Joe Biden had more to say on this as well. He questioned what other rights could come under attack.
The guy's on the Supreme Court now. What happens if you have a state changes the law saying that children who are LGBTQ can't be in classrooms with other children? Is that legit under the way that the decision is written? What are the next things that are going to be attacked?
If Roe v. Wade is overturned, then abortion rights will likely play into the midterm elections.
This is clearly something that Democrats will use and use to their advantage. The problem that they have is the inflation issue is probably more important in terms of motivating individual voters. We'll see what the rolling reaction is to the overturning of the Roe precedent.
For now, abortion remains legal in the U.S. until the Supreme Court has its final say. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Washington.
Today marks 30 years since the Yonge Street Uprising. What started as a peaceful protest against anti-black racism in policing became a flashpoint for race relations in Ontario. Decades later, activists say efforts to address racism in policing are still in progress. Farmer Morelli has more.
We as a people will not tolerate and condone these murderous actions of their police forces.
May 4th began as a day of peaceful protest in the heart of downtown Toronto. The Black Action Defense Committee called a march after another black man was shot and killed by police in Peel. Just days earlier, riots had erupted in LA after 4 white officers were acquitted who were captured on tape brutally beating Rodney King. And anger was simmering.
The demonstration, when you're over, instead of the crowd dissipating, as a big crowd, they began to shout. And then they began to march up Yonge Street.
That group left a path of destruction, smashing storefronts. Dozens were injured and 32 arrested.
I saw the rage in them. I saw a rage that I hadn't seen before.
The event became a flashpoint for race relations. 6 weeks later, Stephen Lewis tabled a report, which, in no uncertain terms, painted a picture of systemic racism here.
The central phenomenon we're dealing with is anti-black racism.
Each group that comes ahead, they're standing on the shoulders of those who came before them, just the way that we did in the 90s.
These 3 friends were activists with the Black Action Defense Committee. They say many of the issues in the Lewis report, like police training, streaming in schools, and professional advancement, still resonate.
That protest on Yonge Street in '92 was just one of many, right? But communities and people can only take this stuff for so long.
I think until we solve for anti-Blackness, then we will continue to perpetuate these tensions and these difficulties.
Black Lives Matter! Groups like Black Lives Matter say they're building on the legacy of the Black Action Defense Committee.
I think we are making changes.
The group has long called for police to be defunded, but it says it will take much more to spark change.
For us to say that 30 years from now we will not be talking about this, I think I'll be lying. But if all of us unite against racism, it will happen before 30 years.
A sense of optimism that the future can look different on these streets. Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
The power is back on in Lviv in western Ukraine. Overnight, the city was one of several hit by Russian missiles. It was the largest attack on the area since the war began. In the east, Russian forces are stepping up their siege of Mariupol, and efforts continue to open humanitarian corridors to allow civilians to leave the city. Ellen Morrow now with the latest from Ukraine.
Firefighters battle the aftermath of a Russian missile strike in Lviv in western Ukraine. Electrical stations powering railways the target. Russia intent on blocking the key supply routes for getting foreign weapons to the east. Still, the governor of Lviv, Maxim Kositsky, says we will do everything possible to remain the pathway for life and cargo. The strikes on Lviv were just one of several missile attacks overnight. In all, 6 railway power stations across central and western Ukraine were hit. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the strikes demonstrate Russian frustration. Various cities have once again become targets, says Zelensky. Russia is venting its powerlessness because they can't beat Ukraine. But Ukrainian military officials say Russia's efforts to do just that are again intensifying. Russia is trying to increase the tempo of its offensive, says this Ukrainian Defense Ministry spokesman. The enemy is regrouping and reinforcing its troops. The Azovstal steel factory is again under attack, says Mariupol's mayor. The fighting so intense, he says he can no longer reach the Ukrainian fighters inside. While more than 100 civilians have been rescued, hundreds more, including 30 children, the mayor says, remain trapped inside the plant, with little idea of when, if, they'll be able to get out. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Kyiv.
The European Commission has announced plans for another round of sanctions against Russia. This time it's targeting Moscow's biggest moneymaker, oil. But there are some member countries asking for an exemption. Tom Perry has the details.
Today we are presenting our 6th package of sanctions.
EU nations have already announced a ban on Russian coal. Today, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says the EU will move to phase out Russian oil. Von der Leyen says the goal is to do this with as little disruption as possible to global markets, but this is happening quickly. The plan is to end imports of Russian crude within 6 months and refined products by the end of the year. And in announcing this proposal today, von der Leyen was very frank about how complicated this will be.
It will not be easy because some member states are strongly dependent on Russian oil, but we simply have to do it. So today we will propose to ban all Russian oil from Europe.
All 27 EU countries have to agree to this proposal. Even before it was announced, 2 countries, Hungary and Slovakia, said they would seek an exemption. Both those countries rely heavily on Russian oil. There was a report today those 2 countries would be granted an extra year to wean themselves off Russian crude while they and the rest of Europe seek out new sources. This package of sanctions also includes measures to target Russian officials, including military officers suspected of committing atrocities in Ukraine. The EU will work to remove Sberbank, Russia's largest bank, as well as 2 others from the SWIFT banking system. There are a number of state-owned Russian broadcasters as well that will be barred from European airwaves, as well as online and on satellite. Von der Leyen saying Vladimir Putin must pay a high price for his brutal aggression and that Europe wants Ukraine to win this war. Tom Perry, CBC News, London.
New numbers from the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board show signs of a cooling in the GTA housing market. There were just over 8,000 homes sold across the GTA last month. That's down 41% from the same time last year when more than 13,000 homes were sold. April's average home price in the Greater Toronto Area reached more than $1.2 million. That's down from $1.3 million in March. However, it's a 15% jump from the over $1 million average price in April 2021. New listings in April dropped by about 12% to just over 18,000 compared to the nearly 21,000 during the same month the year before. With the price of housing high on political agendas, critics say federal programs have not done enough for Canadians requiring low-cost units. Now Ottawa is planning changes. Shayna Luck has the story.
A new affordable housing development is underway in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. 12 of the homes to be built here will be financed by a construction loan from the federal government, but it'll take more than that to fill the demand.
We see it growing all the time. Like even the data that we look at from like 2020 to 2022 it shows like a need.
That's why some housing advocates are cautiously optimistic after the federal government's recent budget announced changes to its two biggest housing construction loan programs. One is a program for developers. It's been slammed for building units that are far too expensive for the average renter. The housing minister recently said that will be addressed.
It's some changes to make the program even more affordable.
This housing consultant says the government no longer needs to subsidize market-priced units, and he welcomes the change requiring developers to create more units below market rates.
By 2019, we really didn't need it anymore. It took them 2 years to figure that out and basically make the decision.
The other program is for nonprofits, but the application was so rigorous and slow, many builders dropped out.
It was a very, very difficult game. You had to be a real glutton for punishment.
The government now says it's going to make the process easier and faster. Anything that creates more affordable units is good news for this renter. It's taken him months to find something in his budget.
It's this cloud of worry that you can't really shake.
He's got a new home, but only because friends allowed him to sublet their place for a few months.
It really feels like the game has changed in Halifax. You can't really rely on the market to provide you with appropriate housing now.
While the budget promised action, the government hasn't released details about when those program changes will take effect. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
As the federal government pushes for a zero-emission economy, there are warnings that Canada's electrical grid isn't up to the task. Just charging electric cars can be a challenge in some areas, and a new report prepared by the Canadian Climate Institute says there needs to be significant improvement in generating capacity and distribution. David Thornton reports.
Kim Nelson loves her electric vehicle, but not how long it takes to juice up fully. 3 days on her slow charger if it's drained. Even if she wanted to upgrade to a faster charger, the power lines on her street don't support the electrical load.
So we have to be really vigilant about making sure we're always charging. And I think if the government wants to move everyone in the direction of electric vehicles, this is going to be a much bigger challenge for people that live in suburban communities or people that live in the north, because you get so much less of a charge in the winter or in cold weather.
For reasons such as these, a new report says Canada's electricity systems aren't ready to take on the expected surging demand. Significant investments are needed, one of the report's author says, because otherwise
there could be challenges for reliability. That means certain outages, certain technical issues in our grids.
Canada needs to make what the report calls a big switch, connecting interprovincial and territorial grids so electricity can be shared, doubling or tripling capacity by generating more clean electricity, mostly solar and wind. But nuclear energy can't be forgotten because renewables aren't always reliable, atomic energy advocates say.
So nuclear provides that ultra-reliable electricity. It delivers over 90% of its capacity, and we can time it to deliver when demand is the greatest.
Whatever powers our low-carbon energy future, advocates and researchers agree the federal government needs to step up with more money and new policies.
The federal government is going to be all in terms of the engagement with provinces and territories as we move forward. But let's remember that is an area of provincial jurisdiction.
Without that strong leadership to improve charging options, some electric vehicle enthusiasts fear their vehicles will remain in the minority. David Thornton, CBC News, Ottawa.
It wasn't a win for our Blue Jays last night, but a young Yankees fan did walk away from Rogers Centre as a winner, but it had nothing to do with the score of the game.
Drilled to left field. A long home run for Aaron Judge. Into the second deck, his 9th of the season.
A Toronto fan caught Aaron Judge's 6th inning home run ball. That was judged right there. It was a Judge fan sitting just a few seats away, so he gave the ball to the little guy. The youngster was so overcome with emotion, giving the man a big hug, and look at the smile on his face. Boy, I tell you, that smile hasn't gone away yet.
It's like a roller coaster of emotions because I'm like, yay, the Yankees tied the game. Yay, Aaron Judge hit the home run. Wait a minute. And then he handed me the ball, and I was really, really happy.
And I just remember telling the kid, I said, you know, when you're my age, you're going to be doing the same to the little kid. You promised me that. And he says, I will, I promise you that.
Nice. Mike Zanzalata had been trying to get Derek a ball the whole game. They just met that day. Derek and his dad are both from Toronto, but are big Yankees fans. They will be back at Rogers Centre for the game tonight. And we just got word he actually got to meet Judge before the game. Rooting for the wrong team, Colette, but great story.
I was going to say, yeah, what an interesting twist. I hadn't heard that part of the story, that they're from Toronto, but it is an amazing story. And I love how the guy starts, you know, he catches the ball and he starts to kind of cheer what he done, and then he just doesn't even let himself. He gives it away right away. And that kid doesn't hesitate either to take that hug in. So really nice story there. All right, a nice story with our weather picture and pattern too, because of the sunshine today, allowing that temperature to warm up. These are our normal temperatures for a daytime high and a low, and today, you know, pretty close. And I have to tell you, in the long range, we really have some nice temperatures coming our way, well above seasonal. Our low, that comes from earlier this morning, and then tonight we're going to see the temperature falling off. So actually, this is the low so far today. It's possible we get below that 10 as we're approaching midnight. It'll be close. Current temperatures now: Peterborough, Oshawa, Ottawa, Kingston, 17 to 18 degrees. Where there's a northerly breeze, look at Sarnia off the lake. That cooling effect, only 6 there, so that probably doesn't seem quite fair. There's that nice clearing, though, of those clouds eroding with that system moving off towards the east, the drying conditions, that sinking, stable air that we get with high pressure. A nice setup for tonight, but again, no blanket of cloud to keep any of the daytime heating in. So we will see some cooler temperatures overnight. Tomorrow we start off with sun. We'll start to see a little bit of high thin cloud, some cirrus cloud roll in, a bit of fair weather cloud into the afternoon. Nothing to get too concerned about at all. So a really beautiful, bright day. I will just say there's a system just going to kind of skim, rotating south of the lower Great Lakes. It's going to push more cloud cover in later on Thursday to the GTA, all around the Golden Horseshoe, but some showers into southwestern Ontario. The tracking should stay south. Now, there's a possibility into Friday morning, Niagara region, you could get a few sprinkles there, and still some back into southwestern Ontario. There's some heavier rains associated with that, so let's keep that to the south of us and just get, if anything, a little bit of that cloud cover coming into the GTA. Overnight tonight, there are some of those cooler readings. St. Catharines, 2, just a little above freezing. Markham towards Georgina and some of those areas. You can have some slightly cooler temperatures as well. Otherwise, 5 for the city. And then tomorrow up to 16 degrees. I'm thinking at least. Some increase in cloud into the afternoon. A little bit cooler, but still pleasant. Friday with that extra cloud cover. Saturday, Mother's Day looking good. Now, Monday, 17. It's after that, Dwight. As we go into Tuesday, Wednesday, through next week, I'm seeing some 20s showing up on my forecast board. So we'll hold on to that for our future.
And you know how much we like those 20s. Thank you,
I
Colette.
do too.
The boom and bust cycles of the resource sector have well-known impacts on the economy, but there's also a human cost. The stress and anxiety that comes with the ups and downs can have negative and long-term effects on mental health for the people who live through them. Julia Wong tells us about some Canadian researchers who are working to change that.
Chase Combs lives in Calgary now, but says he was shaped by childhood in an oil town.
With my dad, I never got to see him. He was away working a lot.
Drayton Valley still follows the boom and bust of the energy cycle, and Chase's family was one of many along for the ride.
I've definitely left to fend for myself as a young person quite often.
Researchers say those ups and downs can have long-lasting impacts.
Something as big and ungainly as the world price of oil has this dramatic effect on who's at home at the dinner table for families, whether or not kids are in sporting activities, the stressors of those economic cycles.
Michael Unger has interviewed hundreds of people to track the mental health effects on kids.
Kids' sense of attachments and their who's looking after them, and the rush of their lives. So whether it's boom or bust, what you see is kind of a flow through of that and an effect on kids themselves.
He says the research reveals the importance of routine and support systems.
For young people who showed a sense of connections to their peer group, or I am part of this community, they tended to be able to weather some of the stressors on their families much better.
That mirrors research in an energy-reliant community in South Africa. Vastly different cultures and histories, but similar conclusions about how to nurture resilience.
Caring family matter. Enabling peers matter. Opportunities to access safe recreational spaces that are affordable matter.
Takeaways communities can act on.
It'll show us ways that we can support through the well-being and build that resilience here in our community.
Chase's view of his own childhood has changed.
Living in an oil and gas town did shape my life quite a bit in ways I probably wasn't aware of at the time.
Now he's giving back, helping youth in that same community. Julia Wong, CBC News, Drayton Valley, Alberta.
Major service improvements are coming to the TTC as more people get back to riding transit.
Some of the services that we're bringing back on Sunday are replacing services that were reduced during the pandemic. Others are entirely brand new service that will be serving the waterfront. So really it's about bringing back some of that service that was reduced during the pandemic as our ridership increases, as well as introducing new services for our customers to get to waterfront features like Cherry Beach or Bluffers Park, that sort of thing.
The improvements that begin Sunday include a restoration of express buses and 2 new seasonal routes on the city's waterfront. The increase brings service hours to approximately 97% of pre-pandemic levels. Current ridership on the TTC is at 57% of what it was before COVID hit. And the city is boasting a new fire truck that will bring firefighting operations to brand new heights.
Responding to fires and other emergencies in Toronto poses challenges that are unique to other cities. Truly a vertical city, our crews require these specialized tools to effectively and efficiently respond to incidents.
The Bronto Skylift is nicknamed Tower 1. It is the tallest firefighting apparatus in North America, reaching 70 meters high. That is approximately 22 stories. Chief Pegg says it's a much-needed addition as more high-rises are built in our city. There are approximately 2,500 high-rise buildings in Toronto, which is the second most on the continent. A new statue was unveiled on Toronto Island this morning near Billy Bishop Airport. It recognizes the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, which first inhabited the land.
The first time that Mississaugas of the Credit saw it and Ports Toronto saw it, they knew that it was the artwork that they wanted in this location, and it went with a lot of the things that the island represents.
The concept for the statue began about a decade ago. It's called Manjuin, the Gathering. The nearly 5-meter-long statue features 3 mythical fishers as a bear, otter, and eagle sitting in a canoe. The boat is inscribed with words and symbols significant to the Mississaugas of the Credit. Kicking off an election campaign is a formal process. It all begins with the legislature being dissolved, and after that, the writs are drawn up. CBC Toronto got an exclusive look into what that really means and why the process is so important.
Hi, my name is Liz Dowdswell, and I'm the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. And as you might imagine, we're into a couple of rather interesting days. We'll be signing writs for the next hour or so. I've gotten quite good at signing documents in a hurry. It's like an assembly line because it requires my signature and the Chief Electoral Officer's signatures. Were there any changes to ridings this year?
No.
In the numbers? Or?
Nope, we have the same number. There are no boundary changes.
In our legislative framework, writs can only be signed on the Wednesday. So Parliament was dissolved yesterday when the Premier came by, and the instructions were to me to have the writs ready and drawn up, and we signed them all this morning, and as I say, now we're off to the races.
When you think about the role of the Lieutenant Governor, the obligation is to ensure that democratic processes take place. You're the safeguard in many respects. I hope everybody does get out and vote.
As we head to break, here's a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX closed up by 280 points. The Dow soared by 932 points. The dollar trading higher at 78.0 cents US. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Puck drop at Scotiabank Arena is just over half an hour away as our Maple Leafs try to go up 2-0 against the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round of the NHL playoffs. Let's go back to Greg Ross, who is live at Maple Leaf Square. Greg, some excited fans down there with you tonight, as per usual.
Yeah, very excited. And, you know, it's funny, Sheldon Keefe, the Leafs head coach, said in Game 1, the fans may have been the #1 star. He talked about the fans going into the building, and if you look, you see they're here bright and early, just like they were in their seats early in Game 1. They were there for the national anthem, and Sheldon Keefe said that gave the team a huge boost. And of course, the fans here in Maple Leaf Square are out in full force once again. They're ready to cheer here tonight, and they're hoping to be a key factor for these Leafs. You see they've got Sign Guy back in the arena here today. I mean, obviously, Sheldon Keefe said the fans are a big part of this. How big of a deal is this for you to see the Leafs win that game 5-0 and now have a chance to go up 2-0?
Keep that same momentum.
You're looking for them to keep the momentum. I mean, how exciting is this for you? A chance to go up 2-0 in this series.
Oh, this is awesome, especially back-to-back champs here. We need to take these ones away from them.
That's what they're looking to do. They're having to dethrone the champions for sure, the back-to-back champion, Tampa Bay Lightning. Another big crowd out here in Maple Leaf Square. Another excited crowd going into the arena. We saw some of the fans going into the building earlier, and I can tell you they were already loud, Dwight. They were coming in ready to cheer, ready to bring the excitement, and the Leaf players all said to a man they felt it on the ice in Game 1. Even John Cooper, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning, said he could feel that energy. So we'll see if those fans could bring it again tonight, Dwight. The Leafs definitely have a big opportunity to take control of this series before shifting it to Tampa for Games 3 and 4.
Do they ever? Thank you for that, Greg. Colin, it hurt so much last year. I'm not getting excited till the second round this year.
Okay, but it was
that 3-1. I haven't gotten over it yet.
I know, but a pretty exciting,
Yes.
first game. Come
Yeah,
on.
oh, it was great. A great start, but I'm a Leaf fan. I've learned.
Yeah, all right. Well, I've got hope for us both. We're going to, all right, I don't want to say anything, don't want to jinx anything. Let's just have a look at what's going on here with what's going on with the satellite and the clearing that we've been seeing. That's why we got into that sunshine, but also that erosion of the cloud means there's not a blanket to kind of keep in some of the daytime heating. So things are going to cool off tonight. Now for Maple Leaf Square and the fans down there, we'll still be in the double digits as we're heading into the evening hours. But overnight tonight, we are going to find that temperature falling off. So we will fall to 5 degrees. So a little cool tomorrow morning as you're getting things going. But once we do, it will get going up to a high of at least 16 degrees. A really pleasant afternoon. The wind's not quite as strong from the north as what they were today. And we will just see some increase in cloudiness into those afternoon hours. Nothing too significant. Slightly cooler for a couple of days after that, but things still looking pleasant, especially for Mom on Sunday.
Going to be a good one. Go Leafs go. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
That is our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. We're going to see you back here tomorrow at 6. Stay safe and have a great night, everybody. And yes, go Leafs, go.